Well, hello and welcome to today's Doors Open Baltimore virtual tour of the One West Mount Vernon Place presented by the Baltimore Architecture Foundation and Moseley Architects. This is Chelsea Thomas of Doors Open Planning Committee and an architect at Moseley. First, thank you to our sponsors, and thank you to our Doors Open sponsors, grantors, and in-kind supporters. Today's program is the last in our Arts and Culture Week. Tomorrow kicks off Design Excellence Week with an on-location tour of the National Aquarium Animal Rescue Center exhibit Fabrication Studio. See this and all of the other Doors Open offerings at www.doorsopenbaltimore.org. I encourage everyone to participate in our Instagram at Home photo contest. We'd love to see photos of buildings around your neighborhood. Use the hashtag DoorsOpenBaltimore to participate. The contest ends October 31st. And now, today's presentation. We are joined by my colleague, Forrest French. If you have questions during the presentation, please add them to the chat box and we will get to them throughout the presentation. And with that, Forrest, take it away.
Let's see. Let's get back. Okay. I'm going to present on the Walters Museum, One West Mount Vernon Place. My office, Moseley Architects, recently renovated it, and I believe it's open to the public now, unless they're changing exhibits. Let's go right into it. That's me. I was a project manager and project architect on the project. And it's located in the heart of Mount Vernon. It is catty-corner to the Washington Monument, which is in the center there. And it's directly connected to the main museum, the Walters Art Museum, by the carriage house, and what used to be an open courtyard is now the Ford Gallery. This is an exterior shot a little bit after we had started work on it. You can see it's just up the hill from the old museum building, and you can see in the shot some of the antifixa on the top. The ornament has already been removed for renovation. Go back to that. Let me give you a little history first. In 1848, it was built and built by the Thomas family. And then in 1892, the Jinks family bought it. And Mr. Jinks' brother was Charles Platt, who became a very well-known architect. He was just getting his start at the time. And he renovated the house to fit the Jinks style. And in 1960, it was purchased by the Gladdings. And after that, the Walters acquired it and renovated it with Greaves Associates. This is just a lower level plan to show you the staff utility area of the Hackerman House to the right. The link that used to be the outdoor patio courtyard, and a carriage house on the left. Sorry. And that's a view from the scaffolding of the carriage house and the link to the big museum. The courtyard is where the gravel is and skylights. This is the interior of what used to be the courtyard. And this is where you enter the museum today. You don't enter in the front of the house where the grand stair is. You enter down on the side on Charles Street. This is the first floor plan. This is where we have 7 galleries and the grand stair hall that you saw in the first slide. And then you've got the conservatory on the back. Conservatory was originally a back porch with iron railing, and it was later enclosed to become a conservatory. I put this slide in to highlight where the chases are. Those little areas are the only places that we can get the infrastructure in. The mechanical, electrical, plumbing runs, the fire suppression system, things like that. That's typically what we had to work with to run all those systems up and down in the building. They emanated typically from the lower level where we had the boiler room, the mechanical room, and some of it came from above, but very little. Second floor. On this floor, we have 7 galleries. We also have these chases, a few more chases to work with. Michael Herbert works for Wisjani Eisner, and he did all the work on the building envelope for us. Typical things he would do is point out where stonework needed to be repaired, things like that. You can see what kind of condition it was in a lot of places. You can also see some brickwork that needs repointing.
Forrest, get our
Yeah.
first question. What program did you use to produce the drawings, AutoCAD or Revit?
It was a project that was started before I got onto it. It was AutoCAD. Here you can see, this is before we started the renovation. You could see all the antifixa on top, and then you can see where we stored them in a hallway once we got them down. And they're all cast iron. And what we had to do with these was send them off site, and they had to figure out a system to clean them first without hurting them and distorting the formations, and then what to coat them with. We had to scaffold the whole building. It's about 65 feet high, I guess. On the right is looking through there. Can't go through there. You have to climb over it. And when you're in this thing, it's like a big game of chutes and ladders. It's you walk a little ways and then you go down a trap door and climb down a ladder, and then you go to another spot and do the same. And then when you get down to the portico, you got to climb up and over and get back down. And on the far side, there's about a 25-foot ladder that is just out in the open over the street, and that's where I thought I was going to bite it, but I never fell.
Forrest, what year was the scaffolding and housework done?
Scaffolding, I believe, was 2017, 18, the winter of 2017. And what was the other part?
I think what was the date where the construction was completed?
Well, the construction was completed in 2018. I'm not sure the exact date. I think it was May 2018. But that was just the architecture. After that, they had to install the exhibit, and that took a good amount of time. And they had a little money to renovate some interior HVAC systems for the Ford gallery, and it probably didn't open fully for another year after that. Let's see. Oh, I wanted to talk a little bit about this. Up on the scaffolding, it was a real treat to be able to get real close to all the cast iron accents, window pediments, cornice corbels, balcony railings. Typically, these were in pretty good shape, and we just cleaned and painted them in place. Some of the balcony railings, I believe these are from the exterior of, well, no, these are from windows. They had to take them down and repair and clean them. This is roof over the one bay, and it's in the dining room. It's soldered flat seam metal roof, and we replaced it with zinc tin alloy coated copper. So they put some money into this, into the exterior. Originally, we weren't going to repaint the exterior, but that was another thing that they did after we'd completed the project. They went ahead and figured they had done all this great work on the interior. Why not really clean up the exterior? This is the crew up on the top. That in the green jacket. That's our well, he's project manager, Bill Arthur, and Chris Weston's in front of him. He's our associate architect who worked directly for the museum. And in this picture on the right, it was freezing that day up there, really windy. I realized that I had a meeting back downtown in 15 minutes, and I had to clear these guys out of my way and get going down that thing, and got into an Uber and took the fastest ride I've ever had downtown and made it to the meeting 2 minutes late. But it was a real hairy little climb. This is a team that worked on the interior architecture and the interior design. This is going into the interior. We're looking at one of the rooms on the second floor on the left. And you can see typically what we found was a really nice parquet wood floor beneath what was carpet and some sort of glue. And on the right, you can see where we cleaned off a portion of it to see what we had to work with. This is also up on that level, second floor. Typically, these were bedrooms, and the second floor was a private floor, or also like sitting rooms. You can see where we've done some exploratory demolition to try to see exactly what the structure was. Of course, there were no drawings for this. And we had to see what kind of shape beams were in, that kind of thing. And see where we could fish all the cables and pipes that were going to eventually become the fire suppression system. This is for the Maryland Historic Trust. It was very important to them that we document the exact condition of the floor after we pulled up most of the veneer and exposed the subfloor. And our young architect, Jamie Wallace, painstakingly went and documented every hole and every crack and patches. And then she had to explain to the contractor how to lay out the parquet flooring again. This is on the second floor. What we did up there typically was we pulled up all the veneer and we salvaged it off-site, and Maryland Historic Trust wanted us to replace as much as we could. So they would carry these bundles out, go store them, and bring them back, the pieces that were good. And we got 2 rooms out of it, essentially, 2 galleries. And the rest was all new veneer. Some more. The slide on the right is from the upper floor, which is offices. I didn't show a plan of that. That's just staff offices up there. And a different type of flooring that we had to work with. You can see they're documenting it and stacking it on the left so that they can replace it. And they numbered each one of those boards and put them right back where they got them. The boards were taken up so that we could run the sprinkler lines. This is typical, again, on the second floor of the method we used. We kept the veneer around the periphery because it was complex and would be a lot easier to just leave in place and refinish in place rather than try to get those shapes again and do it right. And this is the state-of-the-art fire suppression system, not used in the state of Maryland yet. It's really designed for ships because when you're on a ship, you don't want to fill it up with water. So this is called an ultra fog mist system. And you can see the heads, sprinkler heads are pretty discreet, but the manifold and piping over on the left is kind of obtrusive. And the plan in the middle was our working with the Fire Marshal, Maryland Historic Trust, the designers to try to find the best spots for these heads and for what I'll show you on the next slide is the VESDA system, the fire detection system, because we didn't use typical fire detection either. VESDA, pinpoint addressability, blah, 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 with superior detection. Essentially what this is that what you're seeing is this machine that's placed, it's a vacuum machine placed in an area near the lines that you run these little 1/4 inch flexible lines all around the building to the point you need, and you bring it back. These are the heads. Unfortunately, we had to pick one of these. We couldn't choose one that was all white. They all had to have red. And we chose the one on the right. But that head brings in air, and the air goes through the tube, through the building, down to that machine. And that machine uses lasers to determine whether or not there's smoke. And it pinpoints exactly where it is, and only heads in that area or that room will go off essentially. And let me go back one. What they do is they rarefy the oxygen in the fire zone with the water fog, and with the overpressure produced in the room, it prevents new oxygen from joining whatever fire is in that room. I meant to tell you what VESDA stood for. It's Very Early Smoke Detection Apparatus. Then we had to figure out, with all this ornate plaster and woodwork, where we were going to put these things. These are wood beams. This is the dining room. So one thing about the VESTA system is, or the fire suppression system, is you have to have the heads 2 inches below these beams. So, and you can't mount them in the beams. So we had to run through the structure, and you can see the silver pipe is the new stuff. The slide on the right is looking up through a chase. This is coming back to this. I just wanted to see if anybody could figure out where the sprinkler heads are in this picture. I believe there are 7. And there's a little security camera. Whoops. Go back to that. That's where they are. The ones way up high, the little dots, are up in the dome, and there are 4 of them up there. But they're pretty well hidden. This is the parlor where they originally had some really ornate plaster work, and it was behind this fabric covering. When we removed it, it had been badly damaged, and we got some folks and artists to fix this. They didn't really like for us to come into their room, so we'd try to sneak in there when they weren't there, and take these pictures. There was extensive temperature and humidity control throughout the building. It was winter time. We had to use heaters pretty constantly, and humidifiers. And that's what we ended up with. This is just an example of what you run into when you're doing renovation work or historic restoration. On the left, you can see in the lower left corner, there's a little scratch area where there's supposed to be a recessed repeater box, and it unfortunately couldn't go there because we can't remove the structure. So our interior designer had to kind of bite the bullet and have it off center on that wall. Very unhappy about that. And up on the other side, you see a photograph of the 3rd floor where somebody was up working up in the attic and accidentally stepped through the plaster work. Luckily, and we were really afraid that that would happen more often because there were so many people on site, but um, luckily, especially, that didn't happen at all in the decorative area. As a matter of fact, this might have been the only place. I just wanted to show sometimes you have happy accidents too. On the left, we had a storage room that was opposite that really beautiful room that you just saw. And there was no door there, but I walked up, we needed a door similar to the one on the right, and it's about a 3-inch thick door. It probably would have cost $5,000 to custom build it. I went up with the door manufacturer and we talked about it, and he said, you know, somebody carefully covered up the hinge spots on this, and um, institutions like this typically don't get rid of something like that. He said, do they have a basement somewhere? And I went and asked our superintendent, George, and he said, yeah, they have a basement over in the main building. And he went over there the next morning and found the door that fit there. These are the main parlors. The paint scheme in the 1989 renovation was just monotone. You can see the 11-foot tall pocket doors there on the outside of the columns. Pretty impressive. This is during paint tests. On the left, you can see what the room typically, looked like, and on the right, you see Richard Molinaroli's paint scheme test wall, and this is what we ended up with. Unfortunately, you can see that that fire strobe right in the top center. It's the first thing I see. I just thought it'd be interesting to show you above the Oculus. This is a little room, and this is what the Oculus looks like when you're in that room, and it's lit by a skylight just above it. And this is how they had to scaffold up through that spiral stair. It was an amazing contraption they made. It had big I-beams cantilevered out, and you had to duck under them when you went up the stairs. And it was built so that they could get up into the dome and do the painting and repair work up there. And then one day George told me I had to climb up in there and go up to this catwalk at the very top and inspect the paint work. And it was pretty hairy up there. The stabilizers had been removed because they had just painted. This is before they painted this photograph. Stabilizers were removed, so as I was trying to inspect it, the thing was just swaying back and forth, and George wouldn't go up there with me. This is what we ended up with. Floors turned out beautifully.
Forrest, do you remember the total cost of the renovation?
I don't. I should. I bet you could find out from the Walters, though. It was a moving target. So
Kirsten says it was about 10.4 million. Thanks, Kirsten.
yeah, that sounds about right. I'm going to go through these real quickly. I just wanted to show you some of the work that the lighting designer, Ryan, did on his way to getting to the design. You
Is
can
the
see the
stained
different.
glass Tiffany glass?
I don't know. After he designs, we find that we mark out everything, we drill holes, and we find on the right, he needed a light right outside of that column, and there was a beam there, so we had to leave that light out or put it off center. He chose to leave it out. This is the conservatory ceiling, and that's Brian standing out on top of it, dejected because unfortunately a beam was right where he wanted to put a nice row of lights. So you always run into compromise when you're dealing with existing structures. And you'll see later that he did a beautiful job working it out. This is the Richard Molinaroli's rendering of what the conservatory was going to look like. This was the lighting fixture that the contractors thought was pretty crazy, but it turned out to be really gorgeous. And they had an 11-foot tall by almost 8 feet glass case to show vases. And it was going to take some pretty heavy steel and support to keep it from moving around in the event of an earthquake or anything like that. I mean, you can only do so much, but and it was also going up the stair. It was forming kind of a giant balustrade at that stair. Luckily, we dug a hole. We saw it on the drawings. We dug a hole and found this nice beam that we could connect some channels to. And that's a before and after. Before on the left. And that is the completed room with the lighting worked out. You can also see the sprinkler system, the mist system up on the high part. If you look, we struggled with that, wanting to try to hide that, but it kind of hid itself when it got painted, unless you look for it. And I want to just go through real quick, just a recap of the rooms. Unfortunately, we don't have this is the library, we don't have a good photograph of the dining room, which is opposite the library. That's it.
Thank you, Forrest. Just going to open it up to any final questions to the audience. Okay, well, I don't see any new questions coming through. Thanks to everyone who joined us tonight. I hope you have a great evening, and please do sign up for a couple of our other virtual presentations the rest of this month.
Yep, thanks for watching.
Yeah, and thank you both. This is Nathan from the Baltimore Architecture Foundation. I saw a question about if this would be posted to our YouTube channel, the recording, and yes, it will be. So we should have that up probably, if not tomorrow, then by this weekend. Thank you both for this great presentation, and we'll see you at the next one.